Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how to make this muffin tin by throwing off the hump. So here's another example. The tool, you will need calipers so that you can measure the same width for your cups in your tin, and then you're going to need all your normal throwing tools. Now what's great about throwing off the hump is you're only having to center the top portion of your clay at a time. So it's easier on your hands. So what you're going to do is you're going to center, and then you're going to open your clay up as if you're throwing a cylinder. So straight up and down walls. The only thing is you're only going to push down to the amount of clay that you've centered. So you're not going to go all the way down because you don't have centered clay at the bottom. And then you're going to open it up and pull up your walls just as you would a cylinder. Now clean everything up, measure against your calipers until you get the size that you need, and then you're going to use some sort of tool to measure your height. I used my red rib because I just eyed it because I knew I was going to fix it later. I was really concerned about making sure I had the right width for my cup. Now I recommend throwing all your clay, so you're going to end up with more cups than you need, but I think that's better so that you can choose your best 6 pieces. Another great tool for throwing off the hump is when you're ready to pull off your pieces, you want to make sure your hands are dry. If your hands are wet when you go to pull off your little rings, they're going to stick to you, and then you're going to have some really wonky rings, but that's okay. You can fix them. So I have 8 here, but I'm only going to need 6, so I'll choose my 6 best ones. Alright, now I'm going to roll out a slab and compress it, and then I'm going to attach these rings to give them a base. So like with adding a base to anything, I'm going to draw the inside and the outside so I know where to scratch. I'm going to scratch the slab as well as the ring that I threw, and I'm going to compress them down, and I'm going to do that for all 6 of the rings that I chose to use for my piece. So then once they're on there and secure, I'm going to cut them away from my slab one at a time and remove them, cutting pretty close to the ring, but it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to show you how to clean up your cups after. So once they're all on there, you've removed all the excess clay. You're then going to add some slugs to the inside so that you know these are going to stay and not fall apart during the bisque firing. I also am compressing the clay from the slab bottom up into the wall, and then using my rib to compress it all in there. It's not perfectly clean. I'm not worried about that part quite yet. I just want to make sure it's solid. So here I am. I'm measuring all my cups together. I'm making sure they're the same size, and then I'm using my shear form to remove clay, smooth it out, use a sponge and a rib again, and that will help me to make sure I have smooth and as close as possible same size pieces. Now for the ones that are a little taller, I'm going to use the shear form again to remove the clay from the top. I'm not worried about the tops being pretty because they're going to go on top of another, or they're going to be attached to another slab. So I just need them to be as close as possible in height to each other. Once I've got them all cleaned up, I'm then going to put them on another slab. This slab's the top of my muffin tin. I'm going to draw around where they go, and then again scratch and attach all my rings together. Now your cups are harder than your slab, so you really have to make sure you get in there, and water is enough to act as a slip, but you are welcome to use a slip of your clay body as well. Sorry for the jumbleness. I'm doing this with one hand and holding the camera at the same time. Once they are all on there and secure, we are going to then use little wormies to make sure they are attached really well. So I'm putting water, I'm scratching, and then I'm attaching my little worms and really compressing them in there hard. Once they're all on there, I'll then take my my brush with water on top and compress again using the brush. and any hard tool again in my finger. Once they are all on there and you know they're secure, I then try to go in between them too as best as I can. But once they're all on there, they're nice and cleaned up, you are then going to cut out the top part of your piece. So I'm going to draw approximately where I want it. I want the distance on each side to be the same, so I'm just using my needle tool to measure that, and then I'm cutting out where I drew with my X-Acto knife, or I've got a scalpel that works really well. And then I actually used my finger inside of a plastic to clean up that edge. Once it has set up, I am going to flip it onto another board because now we're ready to cut the holes out. If you press at it now, there's air that is actually stuck in there. So I used a needle tool and punched a hole into each of the cups. And then I'm using my finger and pushing down so that I can see where the cup is. Once I've cut that out, I'm then going to use my finger to compress this slab from the top into the cup so that I have a nice smooth surface. And I'm going to continue to do that for all 6 of the cups. Once they're all removed, I'm going to really take my time to clean it up. This is part of your finishing. If you want a nice clean surface, you got to take the time here to smooth everything together. Then you're ready to flip it back over and you're to add handles. Now you don't have to add handles at this point. There is enough of the slab on top to grab it, but handles look nice. So I did this simply by rolling out a piece of clay, cutting it in half, and making sure it was wide enough for my fingers to fit. So I just did a nice little coil. I kind of rounded it out to be like a croissant, and then I'm pushing it down on one side so that my fingers can kind of catch underneath it. The flat side is what I'm going to scratch onto, scratch and attach onto my piece. So I'm making sure they're the same size. Sorry, it's hard to see. Making sure they're as close to the same size as possible. I'm going to scratch it up pretty well because my muffin tin part is already quite solid. And then I will add water as my slip. Put that down, scratch it up again on the actual tin. Get really in there, and then attach it. And again, using the worms, any extra clay you need to make sure it's on there and secure. Once I know I've got it on there, I'll flip it back over, and then I'm going to clean up this edge where you can see where I scratched into it. And I just used a brush, a wet brush, and just kind of smoothed in those edges and around. And there's your muffin tin. It's quite easy. I would say it's probably a 2-week project, but a really fun and easy one. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.